Hi guys, welcome back to the Drivelife channel. In today's video, I'm here to introduce you to a new member of the Drivelife Fleet. This is my 2014 Mercedes CLS Shooting Brake. Shooting Brake because it's the estate version of the coupe saloon. So it's basically a posh estate. That's essentially what it is. The reason it's shooting brake is because it's obviously sloping down slightly more. But this is my new daily driver. It has replaced the E39. I've been away a while, done a lot of different things, changed jobs, travelling a lot more, hence why I haven't been very active on the channel. But as part of changing job, this is my new car. Treated myself really. So yeah, it's a 2014, like I said. It's the 250 CDI, so it's the 2.1 OM651 engine, the same as in our Sprinter van. This one is 205 brake horsepower, I think, but I think it's drop dead gorgeous. There's a long story with why I chose this car, and it started around 10-11 years ago, when I was about 15, 16, and I was at the local golf course playing golf with a mate, and one of these pulled up in black. It was brand new. It was the captain of the golf club, and he just treated himself. It was a CLS 350 CDI, so the larger V6 engine, but I just absolutely fell in love with the CLS Shooting Brake. Fast forward 11 years, I finally bought one, and I've had fun with this car already. In 3 months, I've put 5,000 miles on it. The keen-eyed among you may notice those aren't CLS wheels, and there's a good story with those as well. But yeah, it's got 120, just about to hit 130k. Bought it on 125, and it's been absolutely brilliant. Being me, I obviously didn't pay full market price for this car. It's got a few issues, so let's go through a couple of those now. So the first one was that there was the B7 service was overdue by about 2 months. Now, for those of you in Mercedes world, you'll know that the B7 includes the transmission fluid change, everything like that. Quote from Mercedes with about £1,500, because it's the big service, the one that no one wants to do, so that's why they all get sold around this mileage. But actually, it's not too bad at all. This car had limited service history as well, but I was able to track some down and get it sorted. I paid just £7,000 for this car, which actually I think is a lot of car for the money. When you consider you can't get you can get a 3 Series estate from around 2009 for that same money, 330D. This, I think, is a far better looking car. Just the shape of it is amazing, and it doesn't look like anything else on the road. I'm also constantly getting compliments about it. It's just a lovely looking thing. Another one of the issues was that the blower motor stopped working on the day I went to look at it. I'm not sure how much I believe that story, but it's another thing I like. Frameless doors. It doesn't currently have a blower motor, so that's a fairly easy change, about £50 for a new blower motor, or it could be the module, which I think is about 80, but for 130 quid can fix that, and obviously use that to negotiate the price down as well. And then we came to the wheels. So I was aware that it may need new rear tyres. When I bought it, it had the 19-inch AMG wheels on, multi-spoke, 5-spoke wheels, huge things, rubber band tyres about that thick. Within less than 24 hours, I'd hit a pothole, bent an alloy, and burst the tyre. So that cost me a fortune. So I thought, okay, we'll give it another go. This car, we'll give these wheels another go, and we managed a couple of months without any issue. And then I was coming back from Tenerife, left Manchester Airport, hit another pothole, did a tyre in, and I thought, you know what, this is just ridiculous. So at that time as well, I also found out that the rear tyres, they were budget tyres the person had put on it originally, they had completely failed. They'd split in the back, so they needed replacing. On that existing set, there are 285, 35, 19 tyres. They're £300 each for 2 rear tyres, and then £200 each for the front. So I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm going to go and get a new set of wheels, which will be much better. So now we've got 17-inch wheels, so much more comfortable. And for what this car does, which is literally go to the motorway and sit on the motorway for about 5 hours at a time, they are just perfect. We've got Michelin's on the rear here, Pirelli's on the front. That's what came with the wheels, and they happen to be really good tyres. Primacy 4s and the Cinturato P7s, I think they are. So yeah, really, really nice high quality tyres. So now this car rides so much better. Unfortunately, during the pothole incident, we also damaged the ABS ring in the hub here, which is temperamental. Sometimes it gives a fault, so you get a bit of an ABS fault, you don't get cruise control, for example, and then other times it works absolutely fine. So that's an upcoming video, because that's quite an involved job. There's a 300 or 400 Newton meter nut that you need to remove, so it requires some specialist equipment, shall we say. But overall, what I was looking for was a big comfy car that looked nice, that would be able to fit the dogs in, and this car does it all. We'll just have a look inside the boot. We've got electronic tailgate, which is nice, and you can hear it makes a little bumping noise, which is quite funny. You can see Wilbur, our golden retriever, has already been in here, and yeah, you've got a massive boot there. The only thing I would say is, because it slopes, the dogs tend to stay most of the time in that half of the boot, because it's a little less headroom. And obviously you can remove this as well. This is obviously, I've been traveling for business, so we've been it's been in that mode, private mode, which I call it. But yeah, you just press the button there. You can obviously put it down manually as well. I've noticed in colder weather sometimes we get a bit of a sag on the rear air suspension, so that's something to keep an eye on. I don't think it needs doing yet, but I will keep an eye on it. And then in the rear here, it's just full of stuff from travelling, but plenty of leg room there. But I just think this car's gorgeous. Frameless doors, which is another one of my favourite features on this thing. Let's get in and have a look and show you guys what it's like inside. Just yeah, lovely looking front. Oh, we've also got Mitsubishi Mercedes intelligent LED lights, so they swivel, they auto high beam, they cut part of the beam. Very, very clever, look lovely. Dread to think how much they're going to be to replace. Hopefully I never will have to. That's my theory anyway. So, because they only made 18,000 shooting brakes ever, so they actually made less shooting brakes than they did saloons, for obvious reasons, and they never made them again after this generation. So this is the X, I think it's the 218 or 219 generation, and yeah, so there you go, 130,000 miles. We've got sort of this dark ash wood, which I wasn't overly enamoured with to start with, but actually it has grown on me. Full leather lined dashboard. Being the CLS, you see just the angle of that windscreen there. It's very swoopy and sloping, so roof's headroom here is just about right. You wouldn't want to be much taller than me. I'm 6'2", got my seat in the lowest position, but actually you can see how much that then increases rear passengers again. Not too bad at all. We've got your standard Mercedes command system. We've got parking sensors, eco mode, heated seats. This one's got reverse camera as well. One of my favourite features, the analog clock. I've always wanted a car with an analog clock, and this one has one, which is nice. And all this is lovely metal. What I liked was that it sort of gave you S-Class with a bit of E-Class, but was quite unique, the CLS. All the door panels, for example, are different. The reason they stopped making the CLSs and the CLS shooting brakes in particular is because it was just so expensive to make such a sort of one-off body shell. Obviously all the doors are unique, same as the rear doors there. They couldn't really carry on any parts from any of the car in terms of the main chassis of the car, which made it very expensive to make, hence why these were £50,000 to £60,000 cars. but it gives you the fuel economy of the 2.1, which is what I wanted, because actually this car is £150 a year to tax. It will do 65 to the gallon, an honest 65. I've done it multiple times. So it really doesn't cost very much to run at all, yet you've got the comfort of a sort of, it's not quite S-Class, but you've got the line there from the S-Class at the time. If you look at the S-Class, they've got that line. And the original CLS, the first generation, I think that was the 218, was based on the CLS platform. This one's actually based on the W212 E-Class platform, with a few S-Class bits brought over, a few E-Class bits brought over. Most of the running gears E-Class. The air suspension apparently they did use on the S-Class, I'm not sure, but obviously they used air suspension on the E-Class as well, so I don't know how true that is. But it's just, yeah, it's lovely. It's very, very nice. And even look, you've got metal end caps on here. I don't know what they would be covering up, but it's just a very peculiar car, and not one that they made very many of. And like I said, I've always had a bit of an obsession with it. So yeah, we've also got another car that's joined the family. We've lost 2 cars, so everything's changing. And obviously I'm back now. I've been away for a couple of months, so I'll fill you in on those. We've got a few exciting ventures planned, and it's just going to be, yeah, a good year. So thanks for watching. Sorry I've been away so long. Here's sort of the new daily driver, and I'm afraid to say the E39 has gone, but I'll explain more about that because it's gone to a very familiar place. But yeah, look at it, it's just gorgeous, isn't it? So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the CLS, and I'll see you next video. Cheers.